About the politics, blood on the dead homies, we outside of this motherfucker.
Feuding rival gangs.
Police say this crime scene, the size of a football field, at the Midtown Park Apartments near 21st and Memorial, is where 16-year-old Valen Bell was killed, and another 16-year-old boy was critically hurt Monday night.
A grandmother killed on her front porch, a beating at a Metro jail, and a missing person.
The name Piru comes from the Piru Street Boys, a gang that started in 1969 in Compton. It was founded by two men named Sylvester Scott and Vincent Owens. Initially, the Piru Street Boys were meant to be an independent gang, separate from the Bloods. However, over time, they developed a close relationship with them, and due to their associations, both allies, rivals, and law enforcement often mistook them for Bloods. Most Piru gangs eventually fell under the Blood Alliance. During the 1970s, as gangs like the Brims and Bounty Hunters unified under the Blood identity, many Piru sets followed suit. However, not all of them agreed with this shift. Some members wanted to keep Piru as an independent gang and rejected being labeled as Bloods. So to distinguish themselves from the LA Bloods, these Pirus opted to wear burgundy instead of the traditional Damu red.
What's the difference between a Piru and a Blood?
Two different things. Pirus wear burgundy, Bloods wear red. Bloods is in LA, Pirus originated in Compton. We two different organizations under one umbrella that with each other.
Well, Pirus and Bloods are the same thing. I beg to differ. You got different branch. It's the military, but you got the Navy, you got the Army. They not the same, are they? But they are military.
The Piru gangs were at war with the Compton Crips, and just like the Hoovers, the Pirus began spreading across California, landing in places like San Diego and Pomona. But once they got caught up in murders, drugs, and other charges, they would repeat the process until they were forced to flee the state entirely. Some argue that the 15th Street East Side Piru were the first to arrive in Oklahoma City, while others claim it was Skyline. But no matter who came first, Lime Hood locked in as the first Bompton Pirus to touch down in Oklahoma City. These Pirus controlled the north side of the city, and it would eventually become the hub for most Piru gangs. Over time, they built a solid bond with the 456 Pirus. This connection ran so deep that banging together just made sense, both for the streets and for business. So, Lime Hood and the Islands came together to form the 87th North Highlands Piru Bloods, named after 87th Street in North Highlands. 87 NHP is stamped by Lime Hood in Compton and the Islands in Pomona, leaving no debate that they're verified roosters. Before Piru landed in North Highlands, they were known as the City Boy Gangsters. This clique was made up of neighborhood bullies and stick-up kids, always on the hunt for their next hustle. The City Boy Gangsters were constantly at war with the Hoover Criminals, who were the most dangerous gang in Oklahoma at the time. This forced CBG to step up their game, especially after getting the stamp from an OG rooster from the Islands. The Oklahoma City Pirus are the best example of what it means to show true Piru love. They move together as one, whether it's handling beefs or celebrating each other's hood days. At one point, they even started aligning with the Family Bloods in Spencer. The two factions were tight, often hosting events together and even playing football games against each other. Over time, though, their bond weakened, not because of any serious conflict, but simply because the newer generation of each set started doing their own thing. The family and Piru relationship ran deep, and out of that bond came some well-known names. Back in the 90s, a big rooster out of Compton named Brazy Roo came down to Spencer and set up his own faction of the 400 Maple Street Treetop Pirus. He started pulling in recruits, giving those who wanted to bang blood a new lane. So, if you didn't get put onto the Family Bloods in time, the Treetops were right there, scooping up new members. That's how dudes like Murder Roo came into the picture. Murder Roo started off kicking it with the families, but at some point, he got tight with Brazy Roo. Instead of joining the families, he made the switch to Treetop, though he kept the name Murder that he earned under the Murder One Family Bloods. Over time, Murder Roo became a well-respected rep for the Treetops, and by the late 90s, he was living on the south side, where a gang called the 8 Balls was starting wars with rival gangs all around. The 8 Balls originally wanted to become Sunny Lane Bloods, but nobody would stamp them as an official blood faction, so instead, they flipped and turned into blood killers. But that didn't mean they rocked with the Crips either. They had their own thing going, becoming one of the most dangerous cliques in Oklahoma City. But on one night, the 8 Balls were out prowling the south side when they got word about a Crip meeting happening at a known gang spot. Without hesitation, they slid through and let off shots into the crowd before speeding off into the night. That's when Crip members hopped in their car and began looking for the 8 Balls. The 8 Ball member must have been wearing a red shirt or bandana during this shooting, because they would mistake Murder for the 8 Ball member. Murder Roo was outside his home, with a big red in hand and just booling in his yard, unaware of what was coming. But as the car pulled up, the window dropped and a Crip began banging on Murder Roo, asking him, "Where you from?" Murder Roo didn't hesitate, replying 400 Maple, but that was all it took. Gunfire erupted, and before he could react, Murder Roo was hit. And just like that, one of Treetop's real ones was gone. This led the Pirus to enforce a strict protocol. Joining the treetops became exclusive, reserved only for top hats ready for war. This new system nearly pushed them to extinction, as many felt the younger generation wasn't prepared to bang 400. But this wasn't just a treetop issue. The 104 Skyline Pirus adopted the same approach and continued to push the line, now primarily consisting of older members. But before the 2000s hit, Brazy Rue caught a body out in Spencer. On March 24, 1999, he opened fire on 2 men in the 800 block of Highland Drive. One of them, Colin Moaning, was behind the wheel of his friend's car when a bullet struck him in the head. His friend, Joseph Dawson, was hit in the left shoulder but managed to survive. For years, Dawson stayed quiet. He told the police he didn't know who pulled the trigger. But in 2010, over a decade later, he changed his story. He said he was ready to tell the truth for Colin's family. Brazy Rue was charged with first-degree murder, but in a plea deal, he admitted to manslaughter instead. The case was old, and the prosecution wasn't sure Dawson's testimony would hold up in court. In the end, Brazy got 4 years in prison and 6 years on probation. Colin's father sat in the courtroom, listening to it all, but he didn't speak to the press. The prosecutor, Susan Stallings, said she was glad the family finally had closure. Brazy's lawyer, David Slane, said, "It was in everybody's best interest to get this behind us." Authorities believe Brazy Rue was really after Dawson that day. Dawson had testified against 2 treetop members in a double murder case, and that put a target on his back. At the time of the shooting, Colin was just getting his car fixed. Dawson picked him up to take him home, letting him drive since Dawson didn't have a license. That's when Brazy pulled up in a pickup truck and started blasting. Back in 1999, Dawson had quietly told a detective over the phone that he knew who did it. He even said the name Brazy, but fear kept him from saying more. Brazy Rue might be one of the few to catch a body, admit to it, and walk away with just 4 years. In Oklahoma, where life sentences are handed out like candy, and even the death penalty isn't off the table, that kind of deal is almost unheard of. Brazy Rue eventually passed away from natural causes, but his legacy didn't die with him. His son, known as Little 400, now runs with the younger treetop members on the north side.
On the set, this Big Brazy from the Lynn son on the set.
Over the years, the treetops had beef with the neighborhood Crips and the Villeside Gangster Crips, but lately, their biggest problem has been the Foncho Gangster Crips. A lot of this funk comes from dissing TB and street beef that carried over into the music. TB was an affiliate of the Foncho Gangster Crips who was gunned down while visiting a female. It's alleged that the situation stemmed from a love triangle that turned violent.
Was shot to death, male victim shot by another man who took off from the scene. At last check, the suspect was still on the run. Now, when I was speaking with family members, they were saying that the victim was shot when he was knocking on a door. So we're not sure right now if he knew the suspect, if the two knew each other. Family members did mention this may have involved some sort of argument of some sort over a girl. So those details not confirmed by police right now, but that's just what family members are telling us here on scene.
TB's death devastated those close to him, and anyone disrespecting his name quickly became a target. Tensions escalated when a treetop member started dissing TB and the Foncho Gangster Crips. This led to fights and ongoing back and forth disrespect between the two groups. The story goes that KP showed up at a party on the L block, where members of the treetops were also in attendance. KP was a member of the Foncho Gangster Crips, and seeing Foncho Crips in the area wasn't unusual since they had turf over on 63rd, but that night, things took a turn. A fight broke out between the two groups, quickly escalating into gunfire. KP was hit, but survived the shooting. Weeks later, KP was seen on social media, supposedly crying about the shooting. But instead of showing support and sliding for KP, his own gang, the Foncho Gangster Crips, started dissing him. They claimed he never put in work for the set and had no right to be emotional about getting shot. That's when Stackman Boogie, a rapper from the treetops, saw his chance. He dropped a song called 4 PM and recorded the music video right on Foncho Avenue. In the song, he dissed the Foncho Gangster Crips and bragged about making them run for their lives.
Spared you the first time, but the next time you hit the news, nigga.
Spared you the first time, but the next time you hit the news, nigga.
That sucker nigga out trying to get pussy, he should've thought twice.
That sucker nigga out trying to get pussy, he should've thought twice.
It didn't take long for the Foncho Crips to respond. A rapper named One Man STK clapped back with his song Intro, claiming he caught Stackman Boogie at a store, and Stackman froze in fear when he saw him.
Why you speaking on me? I ain't never heard your name before. Why you capping on the net like he ain't freeze up at the stove?
Why you capping on the net like he ain't freeze up at the stove?
This only made the beef worse, and Stackman Boogie wasn't about to let that slide. He fired back with another track called EBT, mocking the Foncho Crips by calling them food stamps.
Damn niggas poochie as fuck, and y'all not acting, nigga doing all that wolf in front of the barber, I ain't get shit cracking, nigga. Think they saw making goods when they made George stupid, I had to Drake under the seat, could've lifted up and blew y'all niggas.
Damn niggas poochie as fuck, and y'all not acting, nigga doing all that wolf in front of the barber, I ain't get shit cracking, nigga. Think they saw making goods when they made George stupid, I had to Drake under the seat, could've lifted up and blew y'all niggas.
And the buzz killed and I still ain't heard y'all make shit happen, but that ain't our score. You don't love your niggas like I love mine. Thought I was slipping, why I pulled up just in the nick of time.
And the buzz killed and I still ain't heard y'all make shit happen, but that ain't our sport. You don't love your niggas like I love mine. Thought I was slipping. Why I pulled up just in the nick of time.
This was the last track in the beef, and the Fonchill Gangster Crips chose not to respond any further, keeping it strictly in the streets. Meanwhile, as the Treetops were locked in a war with the Fonchill Gangster Crips, the North Highlands were caught in a violent conflict with the Shotgun Crips and Neighborhood Crips.
Heard the Shotgun Crips were mad at the North Highland Bloods and were out for blood.
Baby Joe, also known as J-Dog, was allegedly murdered by the Shotgun Crips. While the streets saw him as part of the North Highlands, his family never viewed him as a gangbanger, just a gang member trying to survive. His death sparked a deadly back and forth, with many blaming the Shotgun Crips. The North Highlands struck back hard, targeting their rivals' families and putting hands on any Shotgun member they caught in public. But the war caused the North Highlands to lose key figures, including Big Mark from 87, who was tracked down and ambushed at the Bethany apartment complex. Around 10:15 p.m., two masked gunmen in black hoodies knocked on his door. The moment he answered, they opened fire, leaving Big Mark dead in the doorway.
Killed at the door of his apartment. A blue expedition is spotted. October 2022, OSBI releases surveillance video of the believed killers climbing into the SUV and fleeing.
In 2024, in Lawton, Oklahoma, a violent feud between the gangs has allegedly claimed another life. 3 alleged 456 Piru members are now fighting murder charges when they pulled up on a rival while he attended a birthday party, letting off shots that left him for dead.
3 people now face charges following the shooting death of Davion Smith at a birthday party 1 week ago today. Michael Ramon Epps and Dejon Shannon both face charges of first-degree murder with deliberate intent or an alternate murder charge, as well as using a vehicle to discharge a weapon. And Michael McKenzie faces a felony charge of accessory after the fact for allegedly trying to help Shannon and Epps avoid arrest. Now, according to court documents, Epps was identified through home security surveillance video, while Shannon was identified using his court-ordered ankle monitor that placed him at the scene. Both Shannon and Epps face up to either life in prison or death, while McKenzie faces up to half of the longest sentence handed down to Shannon or Epps. So far, jail records show Shannon is the only one currently in police custody.
Months prior, a neighborhood Crip had been arrested for allegedly killing members of the 456, further intensifying the conflict. Since then, violent clashes have continued to erupt across the city. While the 456 Piru Bloods maintain a presence in Lawton, the Pacoima Piru Bloods remain less visible due to their strict initiation process, leaving only a handful of Pacoima Piru Bloods in the area, including rapper Slow Mo Doo-Wop.
And don't be rapping about this skit if you ain't spanked the nigga. Big 556s, we ain't finna throw no blanks at niggas. All that tough shit go out the window when that Drakey hit him.
And don't be rapping about this skit if you ain't spanked the nigga.
With their limited numbers, they avoid major conflicts, resolving disputes on an individual basis. The most recognizable figure from the Pacoima Bloods is Wack 100, with the Oklahoma members not holding anything against him, but also not protecting him when he got banned by the Treetops and Family Bloods in Oklahoma. Wack 100's brother, Big Wack, was also from the 2Ps and a B's hood, but when he was allegedly killed by Hoovers, people started pressing Wack 100 for not coming to Oklahoma to handle it. Some claimed a man named Smith was responsible for the killing. Smith owns a burger spot in North Tulsa, which led Munchie B to declare that he and Treetop were going to shoot a music video in front of the alleged killer's shop and the place where Big Wack was killed.
Your brother dead, a nigga killed them, beat the case, opened up a burger stand, and still got one there to this day. Nigga, no bloods, nigga. I'm gonna push the issue to do the video in front of there because I got a song with the homie from Treetop from Oklahoma, nigga, and we're gonna put up and do the video in front of his shit. Hey, cause nigga, bro, you can't threaten all these people and the nigga that killed your brother execution style and beat the case is still out and got a business there. But you wanna doctor everybody and post their addresses. What about this nigga that got the burger stand?
The Treetop member that Munchie B was referring to was Stackman Boogie, which is confirmed since he is the only person from the area to have a song with Munchie B.
It's just unfortunate with the wrong niggas.
You the type of nigga to hit the county and roll it up. They bang Munchie line when it's going down, cause they know I'ma do it up. Designer blue, fly whooping, yeah, I'm Louis'd up. And don't ask me where I'm from, fool, you know it's blood.
But about an hour away in Altus, another blood faction, the 901 Piru Bloods, have been gaining influence, popping up all across Altus and small towns across Oklahoma, becoming one of the few original sets to form strictly in Oklahoma. The 901 have forged a strong alliance, with the murder family One Bloods, working together to target their common enemies. This alliance has strengthened their grip in the region, preserving blood gang traditions passed down through generations. Oklahoma has seen the rise and fall of various blood factions over the years. At one time, another homegrown gang operated in the area, Damu Mafia Blood Gang, but the Island Bloods and Outlaw 30s pressured them to align with one of the dominant groups. With gangland-style shootings becoming increasingly frequent, it has become clear that Oklahoma's gang culture will never die. In 2025, a new rapper named 5-Star Guap came up from the 87s and started taking over Oklahoma's rap scene. He was known for being active in the streets, and it was rumored that he ran down on a rival named Mikey, also known as ASAP 48 from the 8 Ball Gang. The story went that Guap caught Mikey on 110th Street and chased him all the way to 115th after Mikey dropped a song claiming to be an 87 killer.
Gotta keep it on me in case some niggas start coming. This 87K might get it tatted on my stomach. Brody, that's my dog. If he up it, then I'm bustin'.
This 87K might get it tatted on my stomach.
On your ass ain't with the peace treating my cousin on that side, he getting clapped. Fuck the suckers, caught your brother on that block, he ran track and fuck Mikey, did the same shit, can't get that boy a pass. 308 and fully K, still a Ruger on his ass. Your brother died, no GBG, I think I'm peeping white flags. Fuck the G, your granny posted on that porch and got rap. Fuck Prince, he's reaching for his pole and got head tapped.
He ran track and fuck Mikey, did the same shit, can't get that boy a pass. 308 and fully K, still a
5-Star Guap had a rough pass. After losing his dad, he dove deep into the street life. He moved to North Highlands, where his brothers followed him and built a reputation on the block. One of his brothers had even put the hands on some rolling 60 Crips. Another brother, named Set Trip, was known for pressing anyone, whether it was rival gangs or even members of their own gang. Set Trip wasn't afraid to push the line with treetops, east sides, or islands. Guap learned a lot from his brothers. He saw how they moved and began doing the same thing. He started bullying other 87 members, trying to make them tougher, and even took a gun from a member named Lil Brick after Brick allegedly didn't use it on rivals.
He said, Chuck, we be robbing these so as day one. How we stick them up and we admit it. I be robbing these so as Lil Block. How I took his gun. I just started a stick up kid challenge. Go sing that song and name all the niggas you rob, nigga. Gangster, nigga. Let's see who got more hats, nigga.
Unlike the old heads before him, Guap didn't just stick to the original rules. He broke away from the 87 set and formed his own clique with some top hats, even including some from rival gangs. He still is 87 NHP, but this clique is for those who have earned his respect and are on the same time as him. Back in 1995, a member from North Highlands Pirus did something similar. He moved to Keystone Park in Colorado Springs and started his own faction of the 87 NHP. But, as they made a name for themselves, they branched off even further, forming the 45 neighborhood Bloods on the east side. Over time, they ended up with 4 sets spread all over the city.
When you think of gangs, you don't often think of Southern Colorado, but that's not the case.
1,300 gang members that are confirmed and/or associates.
Who are they? Gangs in Southern Colorado. Tonight on Fox 21 News at 9.
FBI data from the same time frame last year, Colorado Springs only had 5, meaning we've seen homicides triple.
Now Guap was following that same path, making his own rules and shaking up the game like no one in OKC had before. While Oklahoma City left its mark in Colorado Springs, Tulsa has carved out its own distinct history that eventually landed them in Missouri. But before getting into that, let me touch on how the 52 Red Mob Bloods made their mark on the suburbs of East Tulsa. In 2024, Tulsa went through one of its saddest moments of gang violence. A 16-year-old boy named Queso was shot and killed right outside his apartment. He was part of a group called Fear Nobody, also known as FNB. Fear Nobody was not like most gangs. While it was connected to the 52nd Red Mob Bloods, it was mainly made up of neighborhood Crips, similar to North Tulsa's Squeeze team. Normally Bloods and Crips don't mix, they've been enemies for a long time, but in Tulsa, things weren't so simple. Some gangs worked together, even if they were supposed to be rivals, making the streets even more dangerous and unpredictable. But Queso's death wasn't just a random act of violence, it was part of a long battle between FNB and another gang called the 21 Eastside Bloods. These two groups have been fighting for nearly 10 years over territory, respect, and control of their neighborhoods. According to people who saw what happened, the fight got out of control fast on the day of the shooting. A member of the 21st Eastside Bloods, known as 21 Aki, ran into Queso outside his apartment. At first they just argued, but things got heated. Witnesses said their voices got louder, and then suddenly they both pulled out guns. Within seconds, the argument turned into a shootout. But before anyone could react, Queso was hit and attempted to run, but died right there.
Is Ricardo Galarza. According to police, Galarza was arrested after Tulsa police and Owasso police executed this search warrant at a home in the Barrington Point neighborhood, right behind Owasso High School near 86th Street North and 129th East Avenue Tuesday. They say he's connected to the shootout that happened Monday night at an apartment complex near 21st and Memorial. 16-year-old Valen Bell died, and another 16-year-old is in critical condition. Captain Richard Muhlenberg with the Tulsa Police Department told me at the scene Monday they found 2 weapons, a pistol and a rifle.
The guns we found, I couldn't tell you if they're stolen yet, but when you've got young people involved in guns, they can't buy these guns if the suspects are under 21. So what we're finding, this goes to some of our other messaging, we're seeing thousands of guns being stolen in Tulsa. So this is just a big problem that we as a community, everybody needs to take part of.
Captain Muhlenberg described the scene as the size of a football field because there were bullet casings everywhere. We now have the arrest report that explains what led up to the shootout. According to it, the people involved met up to engage in a gun trade. During the transaction, someone opened fire on Valen Bell, ultimately killing him. Friends of Bell returned fire, striking the other 16-year-old. It is evident that multiple guns were fired by different individuals. The report goes on to say 18-year-old Ricardo Galarza told officers he was a part of the crime. He admitted to being involved in a gunfight and to seeing one of the victims collapsing after being shot. It also says he admitted that he fired several rounds from a 9mm pistol and that he shot at the passenger of a vehicle as he was fleeing.
After the shooting, things got even worse. The 21st ESB didn't stay quiet. They went straight to social media to mock Queso. Instead of laying low, they posted pictures and videos from a spot called The Meadows, where Crip gang members were known to hang out. In the posts, they were laughing, posing next to graffiti that disrespected Queso, and even sharing disturbing images from the scene of the shooting. The 52nd Red Mob Bloods didn't take this lightly. Respect means everything to them. They believe real gang members follow certain rules, loyalty, tradition, and never letting disrespect slide. When they saw 21 ESB making fun of Queso, they felt they had to strike back. The Red Mob started calling out 21 ESB, saying they weren't real Bloods. In their eyes, 21 ESB didn't have the right connections or history to be considered a true part of the Blood movement. On the late night of February 8th, 2025, a deadly shooting happened at an apartment complex near East 21st Street in Tulsa. The Tulsa Police Department got a call around 1:30 a.m. about gunshots in the area and sent officers to investigate. When they arrived, they found 4 teenagers who had been shot. 2 of the victims, both 18 years old, were dead at the scene. The other 2, one 18-year-old and one 19-year-old, were taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Their condition is not known right now. It's unclear if the victims were connected to the 21 ESB gang, but the area where the shooting took place is known to be part of their neighborhood. The way the shooting happened, like an ambush, makes it possible that gang activity could be involved. Some people who live nearby heard the gunshots and went outside to help the victims before emergency responders arrived. Officers quickly set up a secure area to keep the evidence safe. The crime scene unit found a lot of shell casings at the scene. Detectives are working hard to figure out what led to the shooting and who is responsible. This shooting has raised concerns about gang violence in the area, and the police are continuing their investigation. In my opinion, this could be tied to gang violence, but what really stood out was that a woman recorded the incident and shared her own thoughts on the shooting.
Oh my God, they are shooting. Man, buy some fucking shoes, they still shooting y'all. Oh my God, this don't make no sense. They is shooting y'all. They is shooting. They hippies in my road.
Damn, I ain't going outside.
They is shooting.
Shit, them niggas blowing.
Man, somebody dead out there. I don't give a fuck. Somebody dead.
Them niggas blowing.
They are dead outside.
I ain't gonna fake. They blowing.
They really is.
I'm steady hitting that bitch.
Y'all better not go outside back there. Y'all better stay your ass in here. They really out here is shooting over some fucking shoes. Some woman got hit. Somebody got hit, bro. They is tripping. They just had a whole shootout in Hibbett about these damn shoes, these 5. Boys were fighting, then they got the shooting. They still outside.
To really understand the rivalry and tension in Tulsa streets, we have to go back to 2015. That year, a high-ranking member of the Pirus Bloods came to East Tulsa with a clear goal. He wanted to start a new Pirus group in the middle of the city's already dangerous gang scene. He called it 21 ESP, hoping to spread across Tulsa's east side. At first, things seemed to be working. The 21st ESP started gaining numbers, and people in the neighborhood started paying attention. Some younger guys and even experienced street veterans were interested in 21 ESP that carried a bit of that California gang culture. But Tulsa wasn't like California. The way things worked in the streets here was different, and the older gangs already had their own way of doing things. The new leader's ideas didn't mix well with Tulsa's politics. It wasn't long before the leader ran into problems with their new leader, who had already been in Tulsa for years. It's rumored that Dorian Glover had his own rules and didn't like the changes the newcomer was trying to make. They took their history and traditions seriously, and they saw the new ideas as a threat to their power. So the 21 ESP put their own OG off the set, kicking him out of 21st and sending him back to wherever he came from. But as the tension grew with the East Side gangs, arguments turned into real conflicts, and by mid-2016, the 21 ESP had dropped the Piru name, becoming the 21 East Side Bloods, and started beefing with the Hoovers, 52 Red Mob, and ETK. During these beefs, a man named Dorian Glover, who I'll call 21 Maui, took over. He was the one responsible for the renaming of the 21 East Side Bloods. 21 Maui wanted to build a crew that could survive in Tulsa's tough neighborhoods while still holding on to the Blood Gang identity. But Maui's leadership didn't last long before trouble found him. In 2025, rumors about his past started spreading. One situation in particular caused a major problem. Leaked police paperwork revealed that on May 23, 2016, Maui and another gang member, Peyton Hendrick, had broken into an apartment to steal. Even though the case was dropped and neither of them went to jail, the streets didn't forget. Once this information got out that he had written a statement, people started labeling him a rat. It caused a major stir in East Tulsa's politics, making things even more chaotic. To make things worse, during these claims, the 21 ESB had formed an alliance with the East Tulsa 59 Brims. The East Tulsa 59 Brims are known for their history of snitching on each other and their rivals. This only made 21 Bloods look even more police, further damaging their reputation on the streets. Social media became another front in this battle. Rival gang members started posting threats, taunts, and even paperwork related to the burglary incident. Instead of keeping the dispute contained to private conversations on the street, these online exchanges made the feud public. The 52nd Red Mob Bloods have always prided themselves on being the real deal in Tulsa. They're a gang with deep local roots and a very clear idea of what it means to be a Blood. For them, being a real Blood isn't just about the color red or the tattoos. It's about following a set of unwritten rules. These rules include staying loyal to the set, respecting the hierarchy that's been built over the years, and upholding the legacy that comes with the name. The Red Mob have been around long enough to see many changes in the streets. With their history going all the way back to the mid-80s, when they started out as Mob Piru, the gang wanted their own name to establish the Tulsa Bloods. They made the switch, stamping their legacy in murders and a reign of fear. By 1999, one of the most notorious members of this crew, Thomas Smith, known as Mad Dog, had made a name for himself in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But by that year, Mad Dog was moving on to a new city, in the southwest part of Missouri. It's believed that Mad Dog was sent to take control of the state's drug scene and set up his own faction of the 52 Red Mob Bloods in the area. He brought with him a wave of crime and violence, quickly setting up shop in the area, allegedly running a trap house around Jasper County. On December 13, 1999, Mad Dog became convinced that two people, Pirus Harbin and Chandy Breesy Plum, had stolen money and crack cocaine from his house. In a violent fit of anger, he went to their home in South Joplin to confront them. After the confrontation, Mad Dog then pulled out a handgun and shot both of them in an execution-style killing, shooting each of them twice. Over the following years, Mad Dog was eventually caught and put on trial for the murders. The trial was long and emotional, with the families of the victims, Pirus and Chandy, speaking out about the pain they'd endured. Mad Dog was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. At the sentencing, Pirus Harbin's grandmother, Jessie Leen Harbin, spoke up. She said how hard it was for her to hear Mad Dog claim he had no remorse. She was frustrated that her tax dollars would go to keeping Mad Dog alive while in prison, but she took comfort in knowing that eventually, Mad Dog would meet his end behind bars. Mad Dog's actions had left deep scars, not just for the families of Pirus and Chandy, but for the entire community in Jasper County. His influence had brought the 52 Red Mob and drug addiction to the area, and now he would spend the rest of his life in prison, paying for the harm he'd caused. In Tulsa, the 456 and Mob Piru Bloods were some of the first sets to put their roots down. But unlike in OKC, where the Bloods stick together in alliances, these sets in Tulsa operate differently. They keep their business to themselves and don't mix politics. Over time, the Mob Piru expanded into different cliques, including the Red Mob, and spread their influence across the map. But they also had to deal with the harsh reality of street life. Instead of working together, members would often backdoor each other for their own gain. The 46th Street Piru Bloods, however, took a different path. Instead of trying to control the entire city like the mob, they focused on building power in a smaller area, Tulsa's north side. They didn't want to be the biggest or the most famous, they just wanted to dominate their own neighborhoods. This gave them an edge in controlling things more effectively, but it also made them vulnerable. They didn't have the same numbers or alliances to bigger gangs, often finding themselves being victimized by the Hoovers. The 145 Compton neighborhood Pirus even started tagging the walls of Tulsa, so there might be 145s popping up across Thug Town soon. But over the years, the 46th Street have held their own when it comes to Oklahoma banging, just like every other Piru gang in Oklahoma. Thank you for watching another episode of Hood 187. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so this can be shown to more people.